Good afternoon on a new Sunday. Last week we installed or upgraded the WAS server because the previous week we were trying to publish the RESTful calls for WXperts IDE demo to it and realized that I needed to upgrade it. So we did a little upgrade last week on it, and Pete also further explained the new items within 25 of making sure that you have a local user or you have a user defined for operations instead of the normal way that it used to be done between 24. So do check out that video and do check out that blog entry on upgrading or installing WAS 25. That's probably something you really need to do. Second of all, it was brought to my attention, and it was my own little brain fart, but here it is. This line here, line number 8, we had sitting there with HFSQL. That's not the meaning of that. It needs to be dbcon. Here's the reason why. The HChange connection changes the analysis connection to whatever you want it to be. The idea behind that is that I could have a test database locally, however I want to do it, play with it, do whatever I want, get everything situated correctly, then repoint it to whatever system I have there, which is the dbcon you see, and all the connections to it would change over. The class needs to know what the dbcon is, but if you don't do the HChange connection, then all of your hadd commands, hmodify, hdeletes, all of those will be looking at the other database instead of yours. So always make sure that when you're ready to release, or at least ready to do it, you do this. Now, if I want to do testing, I can always add in here if in test mode, equals true, then I can point it to my, leave it on HFSQL if I want to. But if I compile it and run it, then I want it to run on dbcon to get to the same place, get to the correct place. You can always do that. I do that quite a bit, okay? I basically have 2 configs that we use, and we'll get into how to develop the configs and using the manager to do that, the default manager to do that. But I usually have a test mode, so when I'm running it with the go button, it's going to my test database, and I can do whatever I want with it. And then once I compile it and give it away, I don't have to change any code because obviously it's not in test mode no more. Okay, so we've gone this far. Now, we had, just to kind of refresh, we had created some RESTful calls for ACD customer where we're sending in what it's supposed to be, add, change, or delete, and we're sending in a where clause to get all of the records from the RESTful calls. These are very simple calls, okay? Very simple, nothing of any difficulty with it because we're using the same classes, so everything is just absolutely simple. We got a where clause where we're going to say that we're going to decode it out of encode base 64, bring it down, and all we're going to do is fetch the data from customers. We're going to assign that to the JSON, and then we're going to loop through that ret JSON for each one of those customers and fetch the children and add the children's to each one of them. This makes it pretty easy to get your 2 levels of JSON in here. Same thing with the add customers, real simple. I've got a test DB that we ran through last time, walked through, and went ahead and we get a result of the JSON, which is the final child record back from doing it. So let's go ahead and go through the publishing of the rest. All we have to do is hit generate. It knows it's a REST call, so it's going to do that. Go to the next step, compile everything, and I'm going to show you how to test it because we've tested it locally already, and now we want to test it through the web before we actually write anything else. So we go next, And I've already set up a web service call to it. Now, this is using our server, srawexperts.com. We're using account wxrest, and of course my password and everything for it. And what this does is it's using a local user ID that I created up there called wxrest. You notice on this side it says HTTP. We're no longer using FTP to do anything. If you have HTTPS up there, then you want to turn that on and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and hit the next button and let her rock and roll. And finish. Once this process is done, it's going to give you two links. One link is the description. The other link is an actual way to test the more simple calls like the gets and things like this to see that everything is working right. So you can see the top one is the test and the second one is the description. So we're going to go click on the top one and we'll bring down the web page that was moved up. Okay. Make this a little bit bigger. Now, we can't do an ACD because we're actually sending JSON, and we can do that. I just have to create one to do it. But anyway, let's do the customers, a get. We have a where clause. I'm not going to put one in there at all, and I'm just going to hit the button. Now, what's happening here is you can see that I received all of this data down here. If you use Notepad++, we're gonna do that and take a look at what it looks like in a more JSON format than just text being sent. And we'll go from there. Let's see here. So let's take the text from here. If you use Notepad++, there is a feature area up here that has plugins. You can download a JSON viewer and have it format JSON for you. Now, if we look at it, we've got the first name, we got the two children that's with it, or three children that's with it, and then we got the second name, three children with it, the third name, and we're getting the parent and child records for each one of them, which is exactly what we're looking for. That's exactly what we're looking for. So, literally at this point, we've done, in essence, two different parts of this puzzle from here, okay? And that gives us the 32 Windows executable to run the process with a direct connection to the database. It gives us a RESTful call to it as well. Can you run your Windows desktop or web off of the RESTful calls? Absolutely, you can. Takes a little bit difference, but nothing really major that's going to make it difficult for you. It really is not that hard. So you can run both of those as well as the mobile program and only have one place that takes care of the manipulation of the data, the returning of the data, things like this. Now, the things that you do have to watch out for is how much data you're passing across, because basically you're passing a big string. That's what you're passing. So you got to make sure that you've got and done that properly so that way it works correctly and is fairly quick. So here's what we're going to do. We've got the REST procedures down here. We're going to run one test now. See, we've run the one test off the web to see what it looks like, and everything looks right. But we need to run it from a program. So that way the RESTful calls is all correct. So what we do is we create another set of global procedures. That's not what I want. And the global procedures is going to be our test procedures. This is to test all of our code. Let that create. All right. Let's create us a procedure. Test customer fetch is what we're going to do. And let's write the code necessary to go get that data. Now, this is not very difficult to do. A lot of times we'll do this in classes. We'll have everything set up already in class, and we'll get into developing a class that manages nothing but REST when we do the mobile system starting next weekend. Next weekend, we'll start with the mobile program and start developing in the mobile program to do exactly the same thing we've done on the desktop. So we'll have the desktop, we'll have a RESTful program, we'll have a mobile program, and then we'll do a web page for it. Okay? That's what we'll do. We'll do a complete web page for it. Maybe I can convince Pete because he does it a little bit better than I do. He's a better developer for web than I am. Code-wise, maybe not, but definitely web. He's prettier. Anyway, so we're going to do a request. Is REST request .URL. That is going to be the same thing as what we pulled off of the website, sra.wexperts.com/customers/ and then we have a where clause that's going to be there. And what we do is I just put a menu there. Or put a field right here to hold that where clause if we need to use it. Okay? Then we got a request URL. Or no, we were done the URL. We've got no content. We're going to need any content. We're not going to need anything else. We don't need to put anything in the header. Don't need an authorization token. So there's really not much more than we need to do. Now we can do a method get, which is the last bit. Now we need to pull the data. Response is REST response. Equals REST send request. All right. We'll put a stop right here and we'll run this. This is the reason why we did this, because we got the little go button here and I can use it to run it. I got to save it first. Use that to run it and it'll work a whole lot nicer. So we do this and hit the go and run the procedure test. It'll get down to the rest. Boom. Let's just check my URL, which is fine. And let's see if we got anything going on here. Once you hit the step, we should have a response. And guess what? We have a valid response for the content right there. Look at this in JSON format. And we got the same records. See? So literally, I've got the same thing as I would have in the array. How can you deal with this after that content is there? Well, that's a pretty simple function as well. Just by typing in another JSON deal here. So we're going to JResponse is JSON equals RESP content. Now, obviously, we need to test whether the content is not there at all. You know, a few things like that. Come on. And then you do the content. So let's try this again. Let me show you what happens now. We're going to run the procedure test again. We get down to the response, let it click through, and then we click it through one more time. Now, instead of looking at the content, we'll look at the JResponse. You notice down here it says an array of 6 JSON records. So now we already have the array. Got every one of them sit there with child contacts. Everything that we need working just fine. Okay? That's exactly what we were looking for. Okay? So there's really nothing as difficult about doing RESTful programs. Now, you can expand upon this. We'll do so. We'll set up a token. There's certain things that you can go to get more advanced in every one of them, and as we move forward, we will do that. As it stands right now, this is kind of short one because it's really kind of tied to the one before. And it should have been done with it, but didn't have much choice the way things worked out. So what are we going to do next weekend? We're going to start the mobile program. We're going to go through the mobile development using RESTful calls, and just kind of give you a preview of what that is. Number one, we use REST for everything on our mobile, and the reason behind that was because it is so much easier to go ahead and use our own classes for everything that we need to do, and it's so much more efficient to use the RESTful than to do some kind of synchronization. Here's the reason why. If you don't have a good constant connection with the internet, the mobile program is going to run into problems synchronizing on occasion. This way, I don't really have to do anything. I send it. If it ain't there, then I store it locally and send it later. I'm fine. Internet can be up, internet can be down, data can be up on your phone, data can be down on your phone, but you never lose any data. And data is king. So that's what we're going to start with next week. The rest is done at this time. We can actually do the ACD as well. All it is let's go ahead and do that. I might as well think about that. So we're going to hop over. We're going to create another one and show you how to send. Okay, now I did have a record already set up in our RESTful section there of a customer, as you can see right here. And I'm going to use that again. Might change a couple things, but I'm going to use that again. And let's go back to my test procedures. So normally you're going to get this from a record, and that's fine. But the content's the content, and that's really what we're looking for is the content. Nothing is different. I'm still going to do a request is REST request, and then fill in the rest of the information. The only thing that's going to change is a couple things here. So we're going to copy that code down, and it's going to be customers, but it's going to be ACD customer. And remember, this is case sensitive, so make sure that you haven't set it up incorrectly because of that. Okay? So you got ACD customers, or customer is the parameter to call it. The method's going to change. That's going to be an HTTP post. Okay? Now, the other thing with HTTP post, we got to send it some content. So this is where your content comes in. And that is going to be this string that we're sending. Okay? All right. Now, we're sending this the whole thing. So let's put in Maryville here just to change things. Normally, we would have a class. We would set up JSON, then we would assign the values. You would do the same thing. And we're going to do this in the mobile program, so don't worry. We will get to that point. I just want to show you how this works. Content type is going to be type MIME JSON. And then we do a response is REST request. Response equals REST send dot RQ. All right. Now what that'll do is send that name as a brand new record to the database. Record action is going to be A1. We'll re-add that record as well. All of these need to be 1 to work, but that's easy enough to do. Okay. All right. Now, we also got to send it the action type we're sending. We have the equates, is what we do. Okay? And that's what we send. So we do the same request. We got a URL to a different pointer to the REST program. We're going to send it what the program's going to be, which is going to be add. We're going to send it as a post. The content's going to be the JSON that we have here. We'll send this as a 0. Content type be MIME JSON, and the REST response will be there, and we're done with this. So let's go ahead and test this one. See if I made any mistakes in my haste. All right. Step. Okay, so let's look at the response. I got a fault. The element to browse must be an array. Okay, so that means this needs to be another bracket around, yes, okay. Forgot the back bracket on that thing. Wasn't a single record we're sending an array of records. So let's do it that way and go from there. End the test, start over, run the procedure. Okay, and there it is. The response comes back, gives me an ID of 10 for it, and I now have another record with 2 additional records in the database for the children. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this. Let's go fetch the records just to see from the previous one exactly what happens. So we're going to come back up here and we'll see that we get the record here as well. Step through. Well, what did I do? Run a procedure test. Oh, okay. And let's look at the response. Now I got 7 records. And the last one should be the last one I entered, which it maybe not. Let's see here. Got that one. 1, 5, 8, 2, 3. And there it is. There's my new one right there. ID 10. It's my second one in. Okay? Because I didn't have an order by on it. But there's my new records. So ACD works that direction. If I wanted to delete the record, then I could send it, a delete function. It would delete the parent and all the records would gone, or I send it a change. It could change whatever I wanted it. And that's the way it works. SRA does a very good job. I mean, the RESTful programming do a very good job. So again, next week we start on the mobile. We'll start putting together a mobile application for it and start to run it. And we will go through moving it to Google Play as well. So that way Android will work and go from there is what we'll do. Okay? Y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. I'm going to go play some golf. Bye.